Golden Age Hollywood celebrated rugged leading men, beloved television personalities, and seemingly perfect American icons. To millions of viewers, these stars represented confidence, success, and the values of their era. Yet behind the bright lights and carefully crafted public images, many lived with a burden few people could see. In an unforgiving time when careers depended on fitting society's expectations, authenticity often came with enormous risk. For some performers, every interview became a performance. Every public appearance required caution. Some entered complicated relationships to protect their careers. Others hid behind humor, charm, or carefully constructed personas that kept the truth safely out of reach. They entertained audiences, filled living rooms with laughter, and became part of American culture, while quietly carrying private struggles that could never be spoken aloud. Among them was one of television's sharpest and most unforgettable comedians, Paul Lynde. To millions of Americans, Paul Lynde was one of television's most recognizable comedians. His sharp wit, distinctive voice, and perfectly delivered punchlines made him a favorite on Hollywood squares and a memorable presence on Bewitched. Audiences saw a man who appeared confident, funny, and completely comfortable under the spotlight. His ability to turn a simple remark into a lasting laugh made him one of television's most unique entertainers. Behind that public image was a far more complicated reality. Hollywood during the 1950s and 1960s offered little freedom to performers who did not fit traditional expectations. Careers could be damaged by rumors alone, and many stars learned to guard their private lives carefully. Lynde developed a style of humor that allowed him to express parts of his personality without directly discussing them. The tension between public success and private truth became a constant part of his life. After the tragic death of his close friend James Bing Davidson in 1965, that burden grew even heavier. While audiences continued to laugh, Lynde carried the weight of studio pressure, societal expectations, and personal loneliness that rarely appeared on screen. When he died in 1982, America remembered the brilliant comedian who brought joy to millions. Yet his story also reflects the hidden cost of surviving in an era that demanded silence. He made people laugh while carrying struggles few were ever allowed to see. Kaye became one of the most beloved entertainers of the 20th century. With his rapid-fire wordplay, musical talent, and boundless energy, he captivated audiences in films such as White Christmas and The Court Jester. His performances radiated warmth and optimism, making him appear larger than life. To the public, Kaye seemed like a man who could effortlessly bring joy wherever he went. Away from the spotlight, however, his personal life became the subject of decades of speculation. Historians and biographers have long debated rumors involving relationships with men, while others have questioned the strength of the evidence behind those claims. Regardless of what was true, the discussion itself reflects the climate of old Hollywood. During the studio era, image management was often treated as seriously as talent. Performers learned that privacy could be essential to professional survival. Kaye remained married to Sylvia Fine for many years, but accounts of their relationship often described a marriage more complex than the public image suggested. In an era shaped by societal expectations, many stars chose silence over risk. For some, that silence lasted a lifetime. When Kaye died in 1987, he left behind an extraordinary legacy of entertainment and humanitarian work. Yet part of his story remains unresolved. The unanswered questions surrounding his private life remind us that many Hollywood figures lived in a world where ambiguity felt safer than honesty. While Kaye relied on mystery as protection, another television pioneer found refuge behind comedy and performance itself. Long before television became the center of American entertainment, Milton Berle helped define what the medium could be. As the star of Texaco Star Theater, he earned the nickname Mr. Television and attracted millions of viewers each week. His comedy was energetic, unpredictable, and fearless. Whether delivering rapid jokes or appearing in elaborate costumes, Berle possessed a confidence that made him one of the most influential entertainers of his generation. Yet his career also reflected the contradictions of old Hollywood. Berle frequently performed in women's clothing as part of his comedy routines, something audiences accepted because it was presented as humor. In that era, certain forms of self-expression were tolerated on stage while remaining unacceptable in everyday life. Over the years, rumors regarding Berle's sexuality circulated throughout the entertainment industry, though none were ever publicly confirmed. What makes his story significant is not whether every rumor was true, but what those rumors reveal about the culture surrounding performers at the time. Comedy often became a safe place for ambiguity. Audiences laughed at the character while avoiding questions about the individual behind the performance. For many entertainers, that separation provided both protection and isolation. Berle continued working through multiple generations of show business before his death in 2002. His legacy demonstrates how performance could become both a refuge and a mask. The spotlight gave him freedom to entertain millions, while ensuring that some parts of his life remained permanently out of view. While Berle hid behind theatrical comedy, another legendary comedian became known for hiding behind silence itself. Jack Benny built one of the most respected careers in American entertainment history. Through radio and later television, he became famous for his flawless timing, understated humor, and unforgettable stage persona. Audiences loved the character he created. A man who was vain, careful with money, and capable of generating laughter with nothing more than a pause or a facial expression. His calm confidence made him one of the most admired comedians of his generation. Unlike some figures in this story, Benny's chapter is defined more by uncertainty than confirmation. For decades, rumors circulated about his private life, often based on interpretations of his mannerisms rather than documented evidence. Historians continue to disagree about those claims. Yet the persistence of such speculation reveals something important about mid-century America. During that period, public figures were often judged according to strict expectations about masculinity and personal behavior. Even unverified gossip could shape reputations. Benny maintained a long marriage to Mary Livingstone and carefully protected his private world. Whether the rumors were true or not, they demonstrate how difficult it could be for performers to escape public assumptions. When Benny passed away in 1974, he was remembered as a master of comedy. His legacy reminds us that silence can become a performance of its own. Some people tell their stories openly, while others leave history searching between the pauses. While Benny relied on restraint and mystery, Wally Cox found comfort in one of Hollywood's most remarkable friendships. Wally Cox never looked like a typical Hollywood star. With his gentle manner, modest appearance, and thoughtful humor, he became beloved through programs such as Mr. Peepers and later as the voice of Underdog. Audiences saw kindness rather than glamour, and sincerity rather than bravado. In an industry often obsessed with larger-than-life personalities, Cox stood out because he seemed so genuinely human. The most fascinating part of his story emerged away from the cameras. For decades, Cox shared an extraordinarily close friendship with Marlon Brando. The bond between the two men became one of Hollywood's most discussed relationships, especially after Cox's sudden death in 1973. Brando's grief was profound and enduring. Reports over the years described him keeping Cox's ashes and speaking about their connection with unusual affection. Some writers later speculated that their relationship may have gone beyond friendship, while others strongly disagreed. No definitive evidence ever settled the question. Yet the discussion itself reveals how uncomfortable society often was with emotional intimacy between men. In a culture shaped by rigid expectations, deep affection could easily become the subject of rumor and misunderstanding. Cox's story remains powerful because it is ultimately about loyalty, companionship, and loss. Whether viewed as friendship or something more personal, The connection left a lasting mark on both men. His life ended far too early, but the emotional legacy he left behind never disappeared. While Wally Cox represented quiet devotion, Alan Suze used larger-than-life characters to hide a very different struggle. Alan Suze became a familiar face to American audiences through Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, one of television's most influential comedy programs. His colorful characters, expressive performances, and unmistakable comedic style made him stand out in a cast filled with talented entertainers. Viewers enjoyed his larger-than-life personality, often seeing him as one of the show's most memorable performers. Behind the comedy, however, was a struggle shared by many performers of his generation. Friends and colleagues later spoke openly about Suze being a gay man who feared that public honesty could end his career. During the 1960s and 1970s, those fears were understandable. Hollywood remained deeply influenced by societal expectations, and many actors believed that revealing too much about their private lives could cost them future opportunities. Ironically, some of Suze's most famous characters contained traits audiences easily recognized, even if television never acknowledged them directly. He found himself performing coded versions of reality while feeling unable to speak about it openly. The result was a double life that brought professional success, but also personal frustration. Although he later explored more dramatic roles, Suze never fully escaped the image television had created for him. His story reflects quiet endurance rather than public victory. He survived an era that demanded silence and continued working despite the emotional cost. While Alan Suze navigated life behind coded humor, Rip Taylor approached the same challenge in a very different way. Few entertainers embodied pure showmanship quite like Rip Taylor. With exploding confetti, colorful costumes, and endless enthusiasm, he became one of the most recognizable comedy personalities in American television. Whether appearing on variety shows, game shows, or live stages, Taylor built a reputation as an entertainer who could instantly energize a room. Audiences saw a man who seemed fearless, joyful, and completely comfortable in the spotlight. His larger-than-life style made him memorable to generations of viewers. Behind that public image, however, was a man shaped by a very different era of Hollywood. Taylor began his career during a period when many performers carefully guarded their private lives. Public labels could affect careers, limit opportunities, and change how audiences viewed an entertainer. Although Taylor shared a long-term relationship with Robert Fortney, he often resisted being defined by simple categories. He believed personal identity should remain in the hands of the individual rather than the media. That view reflected the experiences of many performers from his generation who learned that public curiosity could quickly become public judgment. Rather than allowing others to tell his story, Taylor preferred to decide for himself what he wished to share. When Rip Taylor passed away in 2019, he left behind much more than laughter. He represented a generation of entertainers who experienced enormous social change while remaining true to themselves in their own way. His legacy reminds us that authenticity can take many forms, and that personal dignity sometimes means choosing which parts of life belong to the public and which remain private. The stories we explored today are about far more than fame, television, or Hollywood history. They remind us that true strength is not always found in the characters people play on screen. Sometimes, it is found in the quiet endurance required to survive an era that demanded silence. These men entertained millions, brought laughter into American homes, and helped shape popular culture, all while carrying burdens that few people fully understood. Their journeys reveal the human cost of societal expectations and the courage required simply to keep moving forward. Looking back, it becomes easier to appreciate not only their talent but also their resilience. Perhaps the most important question is this: has Hollywood truly become a place where people can live openly, or do new pressures still encourage performers to hide parts of themselves? Thank you for watching Hollywood Trainer. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and join us again for more fascinating journeys through Hollywood's forgotten history.